Let us acknowledge that we reside in the ancestral lands and waters of the Coast Salish people who have called this place home since time immemorial. And let us honor inherent Aboriginal and treaty rights that have been passed down from generation to generation. Thank you all. So again, thank you for being here this evening. We're going to go through a bit of a presentation where we're going to go over the proposed amendments from your Charter Review Commission, as well as the recommendations. And I'll explain the difference between those in just a moment. So if we could begin the slideshow. Jane, are you here?
He's here.
That would be fascinating.
No, she's here.
Somewhere.
I'm here. My apologies, Mr. Chair. Here we go. I'm doing screen share now. Sorry for that. And let me know if you can actually see my screen. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I just need to go to slideshow. Just one moment, please. And there we go.
Wonderful. If we can go to the next slide. Thank you so much. So a couple of things. We want to go through the process and the rules that we'll be using this evening. First of all, we would like you, when you do present, to state your name and where you're from, which island you live on. We would like to try and keep you to 3 minutes each, just so that everybody this evening has time to speak. And Commissioner O'Connell will be the timekeeper. He'll let you know when there's about 30 seconds left. If you have a question and would like a response to that question, this right here actually says include your email in the chat. We're actually going to ask you to email the email on the right, the SJC Charter Review at samwanco.com. And we are going to really try and limit chat this evening. And would ask also that everybody, whether you are in chat or if you are speaking, that you do identify yourself. Unfortunately, we had some folks last night who were anonymous, and the chat was being used for some less than helpful comments. And so we really want to try and stay away from that. And so we would ask, though, that if you do have questions that you'd like a response to, because we probably won't get into much of a back and forth this evening, that you email us. And that email, the SJC Charter Review at samwanco.com, that goes to every one of your commissioners. And we are really trying to make sure that we respond to everybody who reaches out to us. And so if you have a question and you email us, you will get a reply from us. And we may be able to cover a few things this evening, but really this is an opportunity for everybody to weigh in and kind of give your opinions after we give that brief presentation. Also, when you are speaking, let's all be respectful of each other's opinions and each other personally as well, and not impugn each other, but instead really respect each other's diverse opinions that we may have this evening. The website at the county is there as well, and you can go to that website and get all of our meetings have been recorded and are up online, thanks to the county's IT team and our incredible staff as well. Next slide, please. So this is some of the specific language that describes what the charter is, but the basic version of what the charter is was given to us by Ron Sims, who was the King County executive, but more recently, and also served in the Obama administration, but more recently chaired their Charter Review Commission last year. And he spoke to us early on in our work, and he said to each of us, and it really stuck with me, your county's charter is your constitution. It is the framework that sets up your county government for success. And so what we're doing in this work that your Charter Review Commission is deep into at this point is taking a look at our Constitution. And this happens only once in a decade. The county council can make edits, although it is very rare for them to do so to the charter. But this full review of the charter only happens once in every 10 years. And then everything we put forward will go to a vote of the people. And so the way the process works is your Charter Review Commission, which I'll introduce in just a moment, was elected last fall. We began our work early this year, and we will be putting forward recommendations for changes in the charter. And those could come out in either just this November's ballot or this November and the following. So we are still in deliberations on whether our proposed propositions on the ballot will be split over 2 years or just this year. And we're in some consultation with our prosecuting attorney on that as well. But the way it works is we come up with the recommendations and those go out they first are submitted to the county council. However, the county council is not able to change them or alter them in any way, shape, or form. They pass them on to the auditor who puts them on the ballot for the following general election. So whatever we put forward will be on the ballot this November, and like I said, possibly this November and next, depending. With that, if we can have the next slide. So these are your charter review commissioners, and we were each elected throughout the county, representing the 3 different legislative districts or resident districts in the county. So the primary islands are Lopez, San Juan, and Orcas. And so you have charter review commissioners from each of these different islands representing you who've been working on this. And so that's the list of our full membership. If we can go to the next slide. So these are the amendments, and the amendments are the actual changes that we are considering to the charter itself. And so these are things within our county's constitution that we are either looking at changing or looking at creating. And so the first one, and we're going to go into not all of these, but some of these in a bit more detail. So the first one that many of you have heard of, so being discussed, is this idea of creating an Office of Climate and Environment that will be headed by an elected climate commissioner and also advised by a residents advisory committee. We also have a declaration of community values. So really underscoring what are those community values that we hold most dear and putting those in our county charter, in our constitution, so that they guide us. We have the creation of a Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, recognizing that these are core values for our communities and that they must be prioritized in all of county government's actions. The Coast Salish acknowledgement that I began this meeting with is something that we hope to put in the charter as the very first item in the charter. And we are also asking that all government entities begin all meetings going forward with that acknowledgement. We are considering term limits for our county council members. On initiative and referendum, we are one of the few counties, because we are a charter county. There's 7 charter counties out of the 39 counties in Washington state. And early on in the creation of our charter, allowed for local initiative and referendum process. The Charter Review Commission, your Charter Review Commission, is recommending that those signature requirements be less, the financial limitations be less, and that we also regulate paid signature gathering. So making it easier for locals to participate in that process. The creation of a public advocate, so that there's a go-to person within the county. Updating our preamble. So similar to the comprehensive plan in San Juan County, the preamble in our charter was outdated and needed to reflect these core values of our county. The Charter Review Commission budget and process, these are starting to get into some of the nuts and bolts, but the transition for us was very difficult this year. And so we've put in place some processes so that the transition for future charter commissions wouldn't be as difficult. A full section on non-discrimination, and then also ranked choice voting. Next slide, please. So I want to turn it over to Commissioner Emery Shanks, who's going to speak to this as the chair of the subcommittee that was working on it. Emery.
Great, good afternoon. Yes, the San Juan County has numerous competing priorities, and I mentioned this last night as well, whether it's building permits, housing, tourism, the economy, the pandemic, or our ferry system. It's difficult to prioritize climate and environmental protection, even though the environment is what brought us all here and continues to bring tourists here. Our proposal, or this amendment, consolidates existing staff in one office, creates an elected official solely focused on climate and the environment, who reports directly to the people of San Juan County with a mandate to take bold action on climate and environmental protection. This person in office will create a climate action plan. This will be reviewed annually by San Juan County residents to assess our progress. This person in the office will continue the duties of the Environmental Resource Division, and the office will include code enforcement for environmental protection, things like wetlands and shoreline, but not enforcement of building codes and fire codes. And the office and the individual will work closely with a Citizens Advisory Committee on these activities. There were several questions last night that I thought I would try to go ahead and answer in a little bit of time this afternoon. One question had to do with the advisory committee and how do you give an advisory committee teeth? And I say that comes from leadership. Leaders need to hear what concerns the community, like from the Planning Commission or from the Marine Resources Commission or from their different plan review groups. The Climate and Environment Committee spent some time discussing whether this commissioner should be an elected or appointed position. We looked at different models in state government. Appointed positions don't have the authority to move forward without going through the filter of someone else's priorities or the priorities of several people. We settled on the model of the Washington State Lands Commissioner, who runs the Department of Natural Resources. She works with the legislature and the governor on her initiatives. The House and Senate passed the budget and the legislation. There's no conflict. The electeds have their areas of responsibility. We have that very system now in our county government with the assessor, the treasurer, the auditor, the sheriff, and others who have specific areas of responsibility. And then the San Juan County Council passes the budget and the legislation. The committee also spent time discussing the cost of the position. There are very qualified candidates in the existing Environmental Resource Division, similar to the assessor, treasurer, auditor, and sheriff. The candidate for commissioner may come from within. If one of those staff members step forward, the county would only be paying part of the commissioner's salary that is currently covered by Public Works. If I understand correctly, the current Environmental Resource Division manager's salary is partially paid by Public Works because this position is also the deputy director of Public Works. The committee learned in discussions with a former San Juan County Council member that the county ended the year 2020 at the same place as it ended 2019. The good news is the county is financially well after fearing the pandemic's impact on revenues. The outlook for 2021 is good. Additionally, the county spoke about the need to raise, or the committee spoke about the need to raise more money from gifts and grants. One committee member had conversations with a potential foundation donor who was excited about the fact that San Juan County would be the first in the country to prioritize this position as an elected official. An elected official makes us stand out. It says how important the environment and climate are to us, and it will put us ahead of other counties and states who will be vying for federal, state, and private funding. Last night, there was also a question about helping people who make their living from the sea. The committee heard from several community members who shared their concerns about our southern resident killer whales. While many of us don't like to see nature viewed as a commodity, Earth Economics reported the impacts of killer whales in the Salish Sea. Their report said whale watching from land and sea generated over $216 million worth of economic activity in the Puget Sound region every year. This activity generates more than 12 million in state and local taxes, and this revenue supports 1,800 jobs in the Puget Sound. So there are economic reasons to step up and support our natural environment and reduce the challenges our whales are facing. This new department and position could have other impacts on San Juan County's government by helping our leaders shift their paradigms. If all 350 pieces of equipment in the San Juan County fleet were converted to electric vehicles, the fuel savings in the first 7 years would be more than $1.6 million. Typically, total ownership saving over the life of the San Juan County electric vehicles would be approximately $2.1 million for the vehicles that are under $50,000. Other things that this person and office may be able to do: help our leaders see that maybe we don't need to build a new building, but rather share the office space, telework, or rework what we already have. And let's continue San Juan County's good work on solar. How about electric buses to encourage tourists to leave their cars in Anacortes and move them around our islands so that we aren't caught in big traffic quagmires? I hope this fills in some information for you, and I'm going to let it go now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. And I neglected to do something in the beginning that I wanted to touch on, which one more piece on the process before we go to the next slide. And thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for that overview. I just wanted to discuss how these things came to be in front of you today, very briefly, which is early on, your Charter Review Commission nominated different subcommittees. So one of the subcommittees was on climate and the environment, another one on elected versus appointed, another one on justice and equity. And the full commission got divided up between these different subcommittees. And we met weekly as a full commission, once, often more than once, sometimes 2-3 times a week. But these subcommittees also met at least weekly since February. And so each of those subcommittees, with a group of commissioners who was knowledgeable and or passionate about that subject matter. Some of them, we just forced people. We said, you have to be on that commission. But for the most part, people were knowledgeable or passionate, worked on these different subjects. And then those subcommittees voted on their priority recommendations for the full commission to consider. And then those recommendations came from the subcommittee to the full commission. And then the full commission voted. And these amendments that you're going to see this evening, this one and a few others, but that full list I showed you on the last slide, each of those have been voted on with support from a majority of the commission at this point. So these are the ones that we're proposing be on the ballot either this November or the following. So thank you for letting me step back and speak to that quickly. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is speaking about our community values that the subcommittee brought forward to the full commission. And Commissioner O'Connell, Bob, if you could speak to this, please. Or Jane, I think Jane was going to speak to this, actually. Sorry.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. Bob was almost put on the hot seat there. So Bob O'Connell did chair the subcommittee on process, though, and so is a good person to speak to the work of this subcommittee. But briefly, I will just say that when we set about establishing a set of issues that we as a Charter Review Commission felt would be important to deliberate over the course of our work as subcommittees at the very beginning of our work together, one of the issues that was brought to the table very, very clearly by a number of commissioners who were bringing really the voices of constituents in their districts was the issue of the critical importance of preserving the natural world we live within here in San Juan County. And this process subcommittee had intense, meaningful, valuable participation from our county, from our community, from citizens that really wanted to ensure that this value of preserving the natural world we live in would be upheld and stated clearly as a value in our charter. Currently, the charter is very silent on some really fundamental values, and really a lot of our work is about making this charter more than just about simple structural processes and procedures of government that need to be enforced at the government level, but really instilling in the way our government functions some values that are of importance to us as residents who live here. So over the course of the 4 months that we worked together as a process committee, that was really infused with very, very bright ideas and information from those who voted for us, but also from those of us as commissioners who are invested in preservation of our natural world that we live within. We worked together to come up with a proposed amendment, which would be called a Declaration of Community Values. And as I mentioned, the charter is pretty silent on value statements, and it was felt that there needs to be something in the charter that states clearly that everyone who lives in this county feels the importance of preserving the natural world we live within, and also of taking care of it and taking care of one another in the process. And so the proposed amendment that the full commission voted favorably for was to include language that captures the county's commitment to a diverse community, a resilient economy, a flourishing ecosystem, and a sustainable environment. And so what this Declaration of Community Values includes is a sort of sub-statements or clauses, if you will, that pertain to the community, the economy, and the climate and the ecosystem. And so I won't read it out in full right now. It is a lengthy statement, but a critically important statement, and would encourage you to refer to it on our website and see what it says. And what we hope and believe is that this declaration will do what needs to be done to ensure that the county government infuses these values within its functioning. This declaration would appear at the beginning of the charter, after the preamble to the charter. And so in essence, that is what this Declaration of Community Values is all about.
Thank you very much, Jane. If you go to the next slide, and that is also you speaking about the commission.
Right. So this proposal for a proposed amendment, rather, came from the Subcommittee on Justice and Equity. And it was felt, again, from the very beginning of our deliberations as a full commission, that it would be extremely important to take stock of the fact that last year, in 2020, in the midst of what was a rather tumultuous time in terms of race relations and discrimination, et cetera, within not just our county, but the government as a whole, the nation as a whole, we wanted to, a number of the commissioners who were quite invested in these issues wanted to ensure that that resolution that was passed by the county council last year, which is a resolution that commits the county council, the county, to a safe and inclusive community, that it would be upheld, that it would be upheld, it would be implemented. At the same time, what a resolution is a policy. It is not an ordinance. An ordinance is a law. And recognizing that, and recognizing that resolutions don't necessarily have the teeth that legislation does, we felt that it would be important to find ways to include within our charter something that would really ensure that the county government would uphold the principles of justice, equity, and inclusion as reflected in this resolution 31/2020. And that was really the basis of the Justice and Equity Committee's work, was bringing to life that resolution. And it was interesting in our journey as a committee, subcommittee, to find out that many people who you might expect would know about this resolution didn't know. When I say many people you might expect would know about it, I'm talking about people who work on issues of justice, equity, and inclusion very, very deliberately, very, very intensively, and with great care and compassion, weren't even aware that this resolution was passed. And so there's not very much knowledge about it. And yet it's something that upholds principles that many people in this county who care about would want to ensure are brought to life. And so in the, what we did as a subcommittee was an intense amount of research. We looked into what goes on in other charter counties with regard to work on issues of justice, equity, and inclusion that involves the participation of residents in those counties and not just government officials. We went deeply into the website to explore what materials would be valuable for us to refer to. And most importantly, critically, we had presentations from quite a diverse range of individuals, including tribal elders and leaders, including tribal members of this county. We spoke with people who work in family resource centers here. We spoke with people in the county government who work on these issues to obtain their perspective. And we reached out as broadly as we could in the very short timeline we had to get a pulse of where marginalization, discrimination, and non-inclusion are experienced by people. And we did what we could in the brief amount of time we had, and it was clear to us that there's much work that this county can do. And so what we have done is, in coming up with this proposed amendment, is to propose a resident-led commission to review and advise all elected and appointed county officials on matters regarding justice, equity, and inclusion. Because, and I will refer to this a little bit later on when we're talking about recommendations, there is no body, there is no county commission or council or committee that exists that focuses in on these issues and that has the voice of residents sitting on it. And so, so that is what we're proposing. And in addition to that, though, while people said in the meeting yesterday, the public that commented said, well, commissions don't have teeth and councils don't have teeth and committees don't have teeth with where they are resident-led or resident sat on, so to speak. And indeed that can be the case and is the case in our county in many instances. However, the approach that this commission needs to take is one that is participatory and one that is collaborative and one that requires the participation of some key government officials to work in collaboration with the residents who will sit on this body. And importantly, what we want in the makeup of this body is a diverse representation of peoples. We would want to see a youth member. We would want to see a member who represents senior citizens. We would want to see members who represent BIPOC communities, people of color, people who represent the cross section of diversity that we have in our county. And most importantly, we would leave open seats for tribal representatives of this area, and not just one simple seat, but welcome them to the commission table to be a part of this this work. So that in essence is what this proposed amendment is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Coast Salish acknowledgement that I read in the beginning of this meeting that we hope will be adopted by the people of San Juan County as a statement that will be the very beginning of our county's charter, of our county's constitution, and will be read aloud at government meetings going forward. Next slide, please. Okay, Maureen C., would you like to talk about the term limits briefly?
I will. Thank you very much. I was part of the elected versus appointed committee, and we were there were 6 of us. On our task list was the issue, should there be term limits for elected positions? And should the county council have term limits of 8 or more years? We went through this. We had many hearty discussions about how to approach this. I think we all kind of came to a consensus that it takes time for local public officials to understand and appreciate their function in local government. So we eventually came up with the notion that it should just be county council that have term limits. And to that extent and to that notion, we at first tried to pass a 2-term limit, and that was rejected, or was failed, excuse me, and eventually came up with a 3 consecutive terms for county council. I'll read it better. The county council be limited to 3 consecutive terms, provided that after being out of office for 1 full term, he or she may run again. And that motion passed. And that's where we are.
Great. Thank you so much. I will quickly go back another part of the process to get things to become recommendations or amendments that has been brought up in the chat that I should have touched on in the beginning is that the way things came to be on this agenda are actually threefold. One is the committees recommended them fully to the full commission, and then the commission voted upon them. The other was in our first round. If many of you were there, and we appreciate your participation early on, but we had a round of town halls early on. And in those town halls, while we had already developed a list from conversations that we had had to inform our process, in those town halls, we had many new agenda items come to the table, such as ranked choice voting. And those then were put onto our agenda. The third way things came before the full commission, if they did not come out of a subcommittee, was that if 5 members of the commission voted in the affirmative to bring something before the full commission, they could do so. And so there were a couple items that came that were never voted out of a subcommittee that came before the full commission for consideration, and ranked choice voting was one of those. And there were, like I said, if you go back, and I know that our Vice Chair Olivia just put in, you can go back and see all the different meetings and all those discussions, but those were the 3 ways that something came for before the full commission. So what we just went through were the amendments. Those are the items that will actually be on the ballot this November, unless we make changes over the next weeks based on your input this evening. But they will first go to the county council and then on to the ballot this November or the following November. These next ones that we will go through briefly, if you could go back to that slide, please. Thank you. These are recommendations. And so these are issues that when we were doing our work and really diving into the details, we realized that these are very important things that must be addressed, but they didn't necessarily need to be or could be part of the charter. And so in some cases, we found issues that really we felt were very important to be addressed, but we were advised by council or in our own research determined that they should not be part of the county charter. And they were in fact more a legislative duty of our county council, or in one case, our county auditor. And so many other counties in the past have done this, charter counties, where they will come up with amendments that go to a full vote of the people. They also come up with recommendations. And this is after months of work, diving into how to really make our county operate more efficiently and more positively for our communities, for our environment, for our core values. We come up with the amendments and then also recommendations. So these are recommendations that we will be giving to the county council. And like I said, in one case to the county auditor, I believe, that they consider. And so if we can, we're just going to highlight just a few of these that have gained more attention. And then you can find much more detail on all of these in the spreadsheets that are provided on our county website. So if we can go to the next slide, please. And Janet, are you with us?
Yep. Yeah. So thank you, Kevin. I have to apologize. I am off island and I have very spotty Wi-Fi. So while I'd love to show you my picture and my being, I'm afraid I will lose you entirely. So my voice is more important than my face, but that's probably true all the time. I'm part of the governance committee, and given the fragility of our environment and ecosystem, it's not surprising that a lot of us heard from residents who have very strong views about the impact of tourism on our islands, and that they want to have a voice in the stewardship of our county with regard to tourism. The governance committee did look at possibly creating a charter amendment to address this, but ultimately we decided that we were going to make a recommendation to the county council because it's really a legislative issue, and it is the responsibility of the county council to address tourism promotion. They're accountable to the residents of these islands, and it's really the council who must deal with the pressing need to balance support of the quality of our life preferences and the needs of a growing and dynamic economy. However, we did come up with a 3-part recommendation regarding tourism. And the first part is, it's actually beginning now. It's sort of a nascent form. The county council needs to develop a tourism management plan. And this plan not only needs to take into account the feedback from a broad spectrum of stakeholders, but it should also develop a baseline of data from which metrics can be created. The county needs to know how tourism affects the islands. What are the economic impacts to our economy? And what are the impacts to our natural resources and our environment? Once this plan is developed, this should drive how the county is promoted, which gets to our second part of our recommendation, which is right now there's a fantastic external entity, which is the San Juan Visitors Bureau, which does promotion for our islands. However, with the development of this tourism management plan, we thought this was a great time that the county really needs to take responsibility for implementing this tourism plan. So one of our recommendations is to move tourism promotion and management away from a contracted organization into county government. Right now, the San Juan Visitors Bureau contract is expiring in December of 2022. So this would give time for the management plan to develop and to transition management of tourism promotion into the county government. Part of this recommendation also is that we hope the county council will employ existing professional staff when developing this internal component of the county government. The last part of our recommendation had to do with the use of lodging tax funds. We are hoping that if there is a decrease in promotion, that there might be more lodging tax available for two functions. One is the creation of more seasonal worker housing, which is critical to running our seasonal businesses. And the second is to use lodging tax money for more protection and maintenance of existing tourism infrastructure, such as our county parks. So that's what the governance committee came up with. Again, I apologize for not being here in person, but I kind of am in person, and I will pass it off to you, Kevin, now.
Thank you so much, Janet. Thank you very much for that. So again, that will be a recommendation to the county council from this body. And then hopefully it will be on their agenda in a way that people can chime in, and then the public can chime in with them. If you could go to the next slide, please. And then one more. Okay, Jane, this is you again on the Law and Justice Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This issue that we were looking into here relates to not only the functioning of the Law and Justice Council of San Juan County, but also the membership of the Law and Justice Council of San Juan County. Many folks in the county may not be aware that we have a Law and Justice Council, but we are obligated to by state statute, and we do indeed have one, and it is comprised of members that sit in our county government in different capacities and have mandates that relate to issues of law and justice. And so something that our subcommittee on justice and equity also looked into was, as I mentioned earlier, the extent to which there can be at all San Juan County resident voice on issues of law and justice. And there can be opportunities for the public to be able to discuss these issues in a collaborative way with the county government. And what was learned in the course of doing some research into law and justice councils of other counties in our state is that other law and justice councils actually do have the participation of residents on them. And it was felt that in discussion with our, not only amongst our subcommittee members, but also in discussions with some of the officials in our county government who are responsible for these issues, that indeed it could be very valuable to have the participation of residents sitting on this body. And so what is being recommended is that there be that opportunity for there to be some representation across the three districts in our county, and also recommend to the county council that there be the opportunity for there to be some tribal representation from tribal members in our county as well, in this area as well. And so we are making a recommendation that this body expand its membership in that regard. And we are also making a recommendation that the functioning of this body be more transparent and accountable to residents of the county, because at the present time, there's no information on the website about this council. And that is different from other counties in our state. that have information about their councils, and also that there be agendas that are posted and minutes that are taken, and that there be a more clear sense of what this council is doing in our county. So that is the essence of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Okay, if we could, I believe the next slide is just moving us into public comment. So if we could stop the screen share. Okay, and so we are now going to begin our public comment period, and we invite all of you to please participate. Again, we'd like to limit it to 3 minutes if you can. If you go a little bit over, that's okay, but we want to make sure that everybody has time to speak. Last night we had a few more people than we have this evening. We had just over 70, and we're right at 70 this evening. And everybody had spoken. We actually had a little time at the end. So if we have that, then we can go back to people who have a second comment if we need to. But we'd like to try and keep you to 3 minutes if possible. And then the other thing is, again, remember to just be respectful of each other and recognize that we may have different opinions, but we all are here for the same reason, which is we love our communities that we live in and these islands. So with that, if you would like to speak, I would like you to try and physically hold your hand up. And if you are not on a video, then please go ahead and do your digital hand if you can. And if other commissioners could help me see folks as I'm toggling through. And so I'm not seeing any hands yet. Is there anybody who would like to lead off? Please, Danielle. And then Cheryl.
Yes, good afternoon. Again, thanks to the group for all the work they've done on this. I'd just like to make there's a couple of comments about a couple of different areas. One is the diversity, equity, inclusion set. Are we not already a safe and inclusive community? That was the language in it. I have been coming up here 20 some years. I lived here permanently on island for 5 years, San Juan Island. And I don't believe I've ever seen any signs in stores saying Asians not permitted or Blacks need not apply, or I don't believe there's been any KKK cross burning. So I'm not really sure why there's a sudden demand to include this. It's certainly part of what all of us believe as Americans, that we should be a safe and inclusive community. And in drilling further down, the word equity in today's political discourse is about as polar opposite from equality as one can think of. Equality was best captured by Martin Luther King when he said, judge by the content of one's character rather than the color of his or her skin. Equity, again, in today's political discourse means taking from one group, giving to another favored group, special advantages, and some sort of utopian dream of making the outcomes for everyone equal. That was never the intent of our Bill of Rights. Opportunity should be equal, not outcomes. So I get a little nervous, especially when they talk about giving that commission teeth, so that supposedly some experts or ideologically driven people or people of one political view will make decisions that affect taking things from some and giving to others. That's totally contrary to our Bill of Rights and our Constitution. Jumping to the tourism issue, again, and like many of these issues, I worry about what are these things really going to cost? I mean, you can imagine some savings, as a couple of the discussions talked about conceivable savings, but I just wonder if there's really been an attempt by maybe an outside neutral source to analyze the actual true real costs of every single recommendation. Moving tourism from a commercial or private operation into the government is, makes me think about a lot of these issues are, make government great again, make it, if there's a solution to a problem or if even create a problem, the answer is always more government, bigger government, government taking on more responsibilities. Now, I don't really see anything in any of this that's going to make government smaller or reduce the tax burden on people that are here. But thank you for the opportunity to talk. And again, thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening, Daniel. I have Cheryl. Yeah, please go ahead. Oh, we can't hear you.
No, can't hear you. No,
Cheryl,
can't hear
I'm
you.
I'm going to move on to Chelsea, and then I'll check back with you after she speaks and see if we can hear you then, okay? So Chelsea?
Yes, thank you, Kevin. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So glad I got to go second after the previous comment. Been a resident here in San Juan County on Orcas Island for about 5 years, an agricultural worker and a proud working class resident of the island. And I want to speak to my gratitude for the Commission's support for many of the recommendations put forward today. Glad I got an opportunity to read them, especially the, the environmental recommendations, the climate change commissioner. I think that's a good step forward. So that will be a cost to the county. Grateful for the changes in the language, necessarily ones that will change the lives and conditions of residents. Glad we're changing the land acknowledgement and other elements of our charter. But I do want to speak to the Diversity and Equity Review Commission, which I just applaud. I think that residents should have a voice in how things go in our county. And we actually are a very unsafe and uninclusive county when it comes to people of color, especially Black people. Folks experience a lot of racial profiling by law enforcement, have difficulty maintaining employment, have a special difficulty finding housing in an already difficult housing market. There are just a lot of examples that someone who is an older white person or a younger white person like me just simply would not have access to unless we were directly asking people of color about those experiences. And there are plenty of comments and plenty of opportunities for us to learn about that. But this is exactly why we need a citizen-led review commission and to give recommendations to the county government and to actually have the ability to make changes in how we carry out our diversity and inclusion goals in the county. Equity is absolutely not the same as equality, although that definition that you chose, sir, was very much handpicked and from your own mind and not the dictionary. Equity means having a goal of equality which acknowledges existing conditions which may be unequal. You're not going to allow someone who may be in a wheelchair to just have an equal opportunity to go on up the steps. They need a ramp in order for equity to be achieved. And that also applies to issues of racial diversity and other LGBTQ and other issues. And I'm hopeful that other people will speak to this. Thank you so much for the opportunity to add my voice.
Thank you very much, Chelsea. If we could ask others to mute, please. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to Christina Kunz. Welcome this evening. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks so much, Kevin. I'm really happy to be here. And I want to thank all of you for attending this evening and for your time and efforts in this charter review process. I have served as a volunteer on the county's Marine Resource Committee, often referred to as the MRC, for the last 3 years, and I've been the chair for the last year. I represent the county on the Northwest Straits Commission, which is an organization that originated in San Juan County over 20 years ago and has spread to the 7 counties along Washington's straits. And it links together those counties in a way to work for marine conservation. I have listened to a few of the sessions throughout your very important work, and I have a lifelong interest in conservation, which is reflected locally in my work to build the Eagle Lake community on Orcas. I decided to join the county's MRC, the Citizens Advisory Group, to learn more about the challenges of repairing the marine ecosystem, restoring the Salish Sea, and why it is so difficult. What I have learned by engaging locally and regionally is how things work on the ground with local organizations who are executing substantial changes with thousands of volunteer hours. That's how it works. It's very local and it's very grounded in the local communities. The remarks I have heard about the county's citizens advisory groups and some of the comments written simply do not apply to what I have experienced. The advisory groups serve a critical function in the county. The MRC is operating at full capacity with multiple projects related to management of the west side of San Juan Island, where the orca whales frequent, planning for marine infrastructure upgrades, which begins with eelgrass mapping, derelict vessels, oil spill planning, emergency response towing vehicle planning, creosote removal, kelp monitoring, the update to the Marine Stewardship Area Plan, and more. The mid and late career county and state employees are educated, smart, they show up here with tons of experience, and they're really doing a fine job. Comments yesterday about the council not responding to recommendations from the MRC advisory group are simply not true. The relationship with Jamie Stevens on the MRC and other council members involved have been very dynamic and very supportive. In the past few years, the MRC has had grants with the Marine Mammal Commission, the Pew Charitable Trust, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, the Northwest Straits Foundation, work with Friday Harbor Labs, statewide and federal agencies, and transboundary organizations. I have been serving on the External Relations Committee for the Northwest Straits Commission to lobby Washington's congressional delegation to reinstate funding for the MRC system. Other MRC members and county staff serve on the Whale Watch licensing debate and the rules that have passed, vessel traffic, plastic-free Salish Sea originated in San Juan County and is originating to others in the region. That was a citizens advisory initiated project. The state just ordered tens of thousands of whale warning flags to distribute to Washington boaters. That project started in San Juan County just a few years ago. There's a lot of work happening, and all of it requires collaboration and established relationships. And I also want to say that all this work is related to climate.
Time.
I need to say more.
You can go a little bit over, Christina, but we'd like you to please, we'll give you like another 30 seconds or so.
Well, I will discuss the importance of the relationship current staff have with former leadership of the Coast Salish people.
Yeah.
Heidi Gobin serves as an active member of the Marine Resource Committee. The Coast Salish acknowledgement you read was crafted after a lot of hard work and relationship built on trust and respect with county employees. The recently installed Marine Interpretive Center at Orcas Landing is just the same. The Coast Salish training recently for San Juan County was described by Deborah Lekanoff as the first government-to-government training ever. 57 people attended. Over several days, we learned about Coast Salish culture, their operations, and the vital importance of that relationship going forward. That's because of the people we have on the ground right now who are doing the work. So since I can't go on, I will finish by making 3 recommendations. The county needs a fully funded marine program. The budgets for all this work are pieced together. And maybe this could be accomplished with all of the successful fundraising that occurs with local community foundations. We began working on this right at the beginning of the pandemic and had to stop. The Environmental Division needs to be a separate agency. And the county needs to plan for marine infrastructure development, which ties into your plans for evaluating the impacts of tourism. I'm disappointed I haven't had a chance to talk to your environmental group previously. And I understand that you also did not talk to other people from the citizens advisory groups. I think that is an omission in your process. And I think that you should regroup and rethink about the importance of that role. And finally, I'm not in support of an elected position. From what I've seen, you really need to hire knowing what the agencies are doing, knowing the people that are there. And I think that's the smart way to move ahead. So I'd like to invite you all to join San Juan County's MRC meeting tomorrow. It's at 8:30 a.m. We will be hearing from our latest all-star hire, who is someone who spent their entire career in the oil industry, who is now running the Island Oil Spill Association group. I'll post the invitation in the chat bright and early at 8:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christina. Okay, we're going to go to Arla Sutton.
Hi, my name is Arla Sutton. I graduated from Orcas Island High School last year, and I would love to read a statement written by myself and by some of my peers at Orcas Island High School. As a group of young adults from Orcas Island, we support the proposal put forward by the CRC to create an Office of Climate and Environment led by an elected environmental commissioner. Growing up in a place as beautiful as Orcas, we are inherently concerned about how climate change and environmental issues will affect both the rest of our lives and those of future generations, and feel strongly that we have a duty to protect the natural resources we are so fortunate to have grown up around. It sounds like a cliche, Orcas kids being positively affected by their natural surroundings. It's a cliche because we, like so many other islanders, have had the privilege and opportunity to grow up in a place where we have an inherent connection to the natural world. As such, there should be no question that we need to prioritize our environment for our youth and for our futures. Creating this office is in itself a meaningful first step towards physical change. Thank you for your time. Arla Sutton, Sophia Fleming, Izzy Janacek, Bella Evans, Misha Woolworth, Sam Sutton, Gray Gailey, Caitlin Tucker, and Grace Gustafson.
Thank you very much, Arla. Okay, we're going to go to Brent Lyles.
Hello, my name is Brent Lyles, and greetings, commissioners. It's good to see you all here. I'm Executive Director of Friends of the San Juans, and I just wanted to weigh in for a moment or two on behalf of Friends, our staff, and our board. There's a lot of excitement at Friends to see the recent conversations about equity and about the potential office and officer for climate and the environment. Personally, I can tell you that it really makes me proud to be here and to live here, to see these kind of conversations happening. They're really forward-thinking and progressive, and I want to congratulate the commissioners on the great work and the great generation of that conversation in our community. It's terrific to see. Friends of the San Juans officially came out and endorsed the development of the idea of the Office and Officer of Climate and the Environment. And we're looking forward to seeing the final proposal. My understanding, and I guess this is a question for the commissioners, my understanding is that once that proposal leaves the Charter Review Commission, it then goes to the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney for review. And we're looking forward to seeing the results of that review and deciding whether we endorse that. It's been a terrific process so far, and we're looking forward to seeing that. If you have a chance to let us know what the timeline is for that, for those next steps, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brent, for being here this evening and for your comments. Like I said, we're not going to get into too much of a back and forth, but I just want to reiterate the process very quickly so everybody's aware of it, not just on the recommendation for an Office of Climate and Environment and the elected official, but all of the proposed charter amendments. So the way that process will work is in the coming weeks, we will either give our final recommendations or our first batch of recommendations depending on whether we make the final decision to go to just this November's ballot or we split it between this November and the following year. But regardless, in the next weeks, some subset or all of those charter amendments will go forward. The first touch is with the county council. And again, the county council does not have the authority to change them. They have it, and they have the ability to discuss them and review them first as our legislative body, but they have to move them forward to the auditor, and the auditor then moves them forward to the ballot. The piece that you mentioned, which is very important, and thank you for raising that because I neglected to do so in the beginning. They also, when they are sent to our county council, also and maybe even in advance of going to the county council, they will go to our prosecuting attorney's office. And we have been sharing drafts with the prosecutor's office and getting input all along. But the documents, when they are finalized by us, will go to the prosecutor, not necessarily for a review where they will, give their opinion on them, but what they are doing is a very thorough legal review to make sure that they are appropriate and also helping us craft the language appropriately. And then the advice they've been giving us for the last several months is, there's some issues that we've come up with where they've said, that is more appropriate, not in the charter, but maybe it's better for a recommendation. And in some, they've said statutorily, the county can't do that. That has to happen at the state level. We as San Juan County residents, just like all of you, like to be the mouse that roars. So some things that we tried to push, we were told, no, that has to happen at a state level. So that conversation with the prosecutor has been ongoing and will continue, but there is, he and his staff will definitely do a thorough, take a thorough look at those and move them forward. The prosecutor is also obligated, as they actually move to the ballot, there's a formal process through state statute where the prosecuting attorney will write the ballot title, and then the auditor will seek out the pro and con statements on each of these and so on. So all of that has to happen over the coming handful of weeks. So
Thank you. I really appreciate that clarification.
You're welcome, Brent. We're going to go to Siri. Are you there?
Hi, I'm here. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Siri. I'm on Waldron Island, and so currently there's a big logging project going on Waldron, and there's a lot that I could say about it, but I'm going to stick to just what I think might be, valid to this charter review. I feel really, really strongly that the designated forest land program, or DFL program, in this county desperately needs to be updated. From what I understand, the requirements in this county are very outdated, and I think we really need some more progressive thinking in how we value our forested lands in this county. Right now, the DFL program, it prioritizes commercial harvest of timber over anything else, over habitat, over sequestering of carbon that trees provide, over protecting watersheds. And while there is some room in that program right now to value those things, I think that in this time of climate collapse, climate emergency that we're all facing, I think that we need to, really think about what the value of a tree is, what the value of our forested lands are. There's a saying that I see a lot that goes something like, under capitalism, a forest doesn't have any value until it's cut down. And I see that playing out around me on Waldron every single day right now with this project. So anyways, I don't know how much power we have within the county. Perhaps this could fall under that idea of the new position, the commissioner of the environment. But I've talked to a lot of landowners who either have their property in DFL, are trying to get out of DFL, are thinking about going into it, and the options need to be better.
30
there needs
seconds.
to be more. needs to be more support for landowners who want to change the program, who want to perhaps get into a different designation as a way to save on property taxes, etc. We just have to do better. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Okay, we're going to go to Ben Bama.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can, Ben. Thanks.
Hi, thank you, Kevin. My name is Ben Bama, resident of San Juan Island. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I first want to thank everyone on these committees for all of your hard work, your dedication and passion and determination just to get to this point. I've attended quite a few of the meetings, the committee meetings, and I know and I see that in your hearts, all of you do want to see a true change. As the case with a lot of residents, I was hoping to see a more robust rights of nature doctrine come out of this process, but I believe the proposed Office of Climate and Environment can still fulfill many important aspects of that, provided the office is given enough independence and the ability to carry out some enforcement. In my opinion, for it to succeed, it can't be an office that ultimately just advises those who are making the final decisions. It can't be a voice chosen to be disregarded just as easily as it can be chosen to be heard. And it needs to be an entity with enough autonomy to carry out its prime directive adequately. And enforcement is critical. As I've commented in other meetings, if nothing comes out of this entire process except the ability to enforce existing county code, it will still be a win. Unfortunately, in our world, boundaries need consequences to be effective and to be taken seriously. I've heard from the committee at times that these changes in values are bold and visionary, which I think they can be if wielded properly, and I truly hope they will be. After all this work, it would be heartbreaking to see these values just become words that look good on paper or a brass plaque mounted somewhere, and amount to little more than a progressive branding without any substance or real world engagement. There must be something tangible where the rubber meets the road, or else none of this means anything, unfortunately. And it can't be yet another ineffectual tool that ultimately just maintains a status quo through inaction. I probably don't have to tell you there are already enough of those in place. It seems in our country, as it is
30 seconds, Ben.
Thank you. As in much of the world, industry and money have the power to establish and maintain a status quo, but the average citizen, the majority, has no sway, even when many of those citizens work together. All of the non-human living things and our environment, all of that which we have relegated to the terms of property and commodity, have no voice whatsoever or a seat at any table. Yet it is that environment and climate, all of those living beings and the citizens of the world that collectively shoulder the brunt of consequences. Yeah, I thank you, Bob. I'm almost done. I'm sorry, Commissioner O'Connell, I'm almost done. So I want to say the Home Rule Charter is may arguably be one of the only legitimate ways to challenge the status quo. And in closing, I earnestly and humbly implore you to take seriously the words in your value statement and to implement them in a manner as serious as the words are by definition. The diverse community, the flourishing ecosystem, the region's indigenous peoples, and the remarkable biodiversity. You have said their names, and they are now all looking at you to take the true meaning of those words to heart and uphold them to the best of your ability. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for the extra time, and best of luck going forward.
Thank you, Ben. We're going to go to Micheline.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Micheline Halliday. I'm from San Juan Island. First of all, I'd like to thank you all. I've been to lots of meetings. You guys work really hard. You sacrifice a lot. And I'm exhausted from going to the meetings, so I'm sure you guys are a little bit exhausted. I do have one question. On April the 28th, at the Climate Environment meeting, you guys all were talking about the Citizens Advisory Committee. And one of the commissioners said they felt that it needed representation from business that use nature as a resource, like whale watching and logging. So I don't know other, at least I didn't hear any other conversation about that. So I'm confused about that. Is that about the citizen? Is that the Citizens Advisory Committee that you guys were talking about want this? So that's my confusion. And now I want to talk about voices. Nature has a voice. It does have a voice. It can sing in health and it can cry out when it's abused, but it doesn't have a voice to defend itself. Only we do. We're the only thing that can speak out to defend nature. It doesn't have a seat at the table. I think industry and money and power has a seat at the table. I don't have a seat at the table. All I can do is vote. There are more laws which support industry causing harm or depleting ecosystems than there are laws for citizens like me to protect the environment. So I just want to leave you with this. Last night, I attended a presentation. Linda Mapes, she had a launch event for Orcas. Deborah Giles was there, Dr. Deborah Giles, and also Jay Julius was there. He's a Lumi leader. And he said this, he said he wants to encourage the concept of being one with. He says he wants to see no more separation from nature, no more divorce from or supreme to nature and our environment. He says, just if you say being one with, it will change your thought process. So I leave you with that and my thanks. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Micheline. I am looking at others who would like to chat. Janet, please.
Thank you, Charter Review Commissioners, for all your hard work. I want to second Sari Thorson's comments about the forest harvest. And during the recent comp plan hearings, I suggested that allowing forests to be used for carbon credits should be part of the program where you can get a tax break for preserving forests. And that would fit in well with the climate change initiatives also. So bravo to Siri. Thank you very much.
Great, great. Are there others at this point who would like to speak? I'm scrolling through 3 screens.
Vince is up there.
Vince, please go ahead, and then I'll go to Catherine Holt.
Chairman Rank here, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you to all the members of the commission for the hard work you have to put in. Public service is challenging at times. I'd like to make a few comments on the San Juan Island, and I currently serve as the president of the board of directors of Opalco. I'd like to comment on the Climate and Environmental Office Amendment. Got a few recommendations. 1, between now and November, make clear to the public what authority the office has to implement enforceable regulations versus make recommendations to the council. I've been listening to a lot of the committee discussions and watched the YouTube videos and listened to citizens' comments. I think there's a lot of expectations and hopes for this office, and a lesson from my corporate days is to under-promise and over-deliver, not vice versa. 2, make clear what deliverables the office is responsible for and who determines what these are. Is it self-directed? Does it take some guidance from the council? Does it listen to the citizens? Do they get to make up what they just want to do? So how is that done? That should be clarified. For example, the climate action plan might be something pretty nice. It includes a baseline inventory of the county's carbon emissions, a listing of those emissions by source, and recommendations for improving our greenhouse gas inventory. That's going to take a lot of work by individual citizens in the county. It's not something that can be mandated. So you're going to have to build some support for making these things happen. 3rd, perform a thought experiment. Be able to have an elevator pitch that explains the following. As a result of the implementation of the Office of Climate Environment, what will be changed in the time between now and 2030? If you can articulate that some, I think you can build some support for this. So those are my comments, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Vince. Those are very constructive comments. Appreciate your time this evening. Let's go to Catherine Holt.
Thank you, and thank you everybody that's worked on this. I have a concern that when I look at the charter right now as it is, it represents, by inclusion or omission, it is representative viewpoints of everyone in the county. And this is the first time I feel like amendments are being introduced that are not representative of the entire county and are of a particular point of view. And that has further been appearing that way to me when I look at the available presentations and such that are available on the site where that you guys referenced. I just see a lot of one-sidedness, and one of my biggest concerns here is that there's not been an equitable presentation of viewpoints from another perspective. Using the Earth Charter as an influencer is very specific choice, and it comes with a very specific worldview. I mean, one of the things I saw in there is a goal of having the onus of proof of environmental proof on the citizen that the course they want to take will not affect the environment, versus the government having to prove that what is going to happen is going to be detrimental to the environment. Like a very different shift of how things are supposed to be. And I mean, if those are your influencers, that makes me super suspect of what your ultimate intentions are. And looking at these things that you've presented, I know you guys have put a lot of work into them, but as a shareholder, a stakeholder in the company, the county for over 20 years, I can't accept them as they're written because they're too ambiguous. It kind of a little bit is playing on what Vince was saying. You need to provide more information to us as far as, I mean, I feel like you may have surrounded yourself with people that already think like you. So I want you to talk about eliminating the fleet to have gas savings, but what's the big picture on that? How many more batteries is that going to be? What's the net value of switching to electric cars? Battery disposal, battery replacement, even the production of batteries has an economical or an environmental impact.
30 seconds,
and people talking, okay, and people talking in general about all the environmental violations that are going unchecked. Well, that could be like the VRBOs, where it's just a small group or a specific situation. You need some justification of what's really happening. How many are going unenforced, and why do people want teeth, and what's that going to look like to the end user like me, who's not part of a government entity and is trying to make a living here on San Juan Island. Thank you.
Catherine, thank you very much for your comments. Barbara Rosencotter.
Hi, everybody can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I'm Barbara Rosencotter, and I've lived on Orcas for over 20 years. I'm retired from being a program and project manager at Microsoft, and I am re-retired the second time for my second career as the salmon recovery coordinator in the San Juans for a decade. So I want to have that background as a preamble to my comments. First of all, thank you so much to all the Charter Commission members for their obvious hard work and significant efforts. This is, I'm sure, taken a lot of time and energy from everyone involved. So we appreciate your dedication. Addressing complex issues such as climate change requires a strategic, coordinated approach in order to make any real difference. There are many organizations and individuals in the San Juans who are working to address similar issues. In order to make progress, we need an organization such as what is being proposed by the Charter Review Commission to create and vet a specific climate action plan, as is currently being proposed, with goals, actions, and timelines to bring together and coordinate the various disparate efforts. and also to identify gaps where progress can be made, but which no one is addressing currently in the county. A climate action plan will help everyone know where their organization, or even as an individual, may be able to plug into efforts to address the climate change issues. That way, everyone is working off of the same song sheet and rowing in the same direction, if I may mix my metaphors. If it is not the county organizing and leading this effort, who else would or could it be? I doubt there would be support for any private organization in the county to lead this kind of comprehensive effort. In the San Juans, the county is really the only entity that could lead such an effort, and being a public entity allows for the necessary and frankly very messy transparency and accountability that comes with that. So I thank you again for your efforts, and I support the direction you're heading with the proposed Office of Climate and Environment.
Barbara, thank you for your comments this evening. Are there others that would like to speak this evening?
There's Lucretia.
Lucretia, please go ahead.
She is muted. Remains muted.
Lucretia, did you want to speak this evening?
There.
Yes. Am I unmuted? Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for my poor technology skills. I just wanted to say that my one concern, first of all, I appreciate all the work that's been done on this effort. And I really agree with prioritizing the environment. My concern about making it an elected position is that it will become a very politically charged issue. And I don't think I think as a community, we want to work together. We want to emphasize that. I'm afraid that if you make this an elected position, that's not going to serve the purpose of bringing people together. So that's one of my concerns. The other thing is that there's been very little reference to what the current environmental department does. And it does a lot. And the way this presentation was made makes it appear as if we don't even have an environmental department. So I would say we really need to bring that into the discussion. And then I would say, if you really, the thing that I support the committee has done is to clarify the values and make that priority. Once we get the values prioritized, then I would say, if the environment remains a priority for the community, then break out and have that become a department in the county, fund it fully and fund it for the staff. They need money and they need staff to do the work. So I hope that, this discussion will lead to those things. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Are there others who would like to speak?
Judy.
Oh, Judy, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Judy Scott. I'm a full-time resident in Olga on Orcas Island. And again, I want to echo what so many people have said about the remarkable job the commissioners have done on the Charter Review Commission. You all have been meeting steadily and asking for our input, and I really appreciate it. And I think it really reflects the best of what we're talking about when we talk about home rule and citizen participation. So thank you, thank you. I want to weigh in support of the Office of Climate Change, and the elected officer is also with respect to the various proposals around that came out of the Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And I guess I come to the support with appreciation. I know with the Office on Climate Change, there are varying viewpoints about how this might be structured. And I come down the side right now and on the issue that sometimes in the progress of government, you look at the historical moment you're in. And that can often drive where a focus should be at the moment. And right now in our historical moment, we're in a crisis of climate change. And I think the notion that we then take that, highlight it, give it a particular focus and intent is important to accomplishing our goals. That isn't to be disrespectful of the enormous amount of work already being done by our county and our county employees and elected officials on this. It's more to complement that and to say, these are really dicey times for us with respect to the climate crisis, and that we need to sort of stand up. And I love the idea that San Juan County would be in the forefront of saying to people, here's how we're going to focus our work and highlight it and give it strength. That's also certainly true with the issue of justice, diversity, and inclusion proposals. We just witnessed this year of just horrific issues around the country with respect to violations of basic civil rights and notions of the fact that we still have not in our country overcome the question of
30
our
seconds, Judy.
history and slavery. And I think I urge people, when people talk about the zero-sum game, that if we give to one group, we're going to take away from another, I urge them to read Heather McGee's book that's on the bestseller list right now, which I'll put in the chat, The Sum of Us, which talks about the need for all of us to concentrate on what you might call the solidarity dividend, which is when we're all working together and we recognize our history, not with shame, but with just straight up awareness of where we've come from, we can grapple with new ways of addressing these issues and ensuring that there's access to our, if I might have just a few more seconds, is that all right, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, just a few more.
That, we're setting, I think what the Charter Commission is doing with these proposals is setting up a vehicle for these discussions to occur and issues to be raised in the next 10 years as we grapple with this. And I think that is really important. And I also think the recommendation about the tourism board being incorporated in the county is critical. We watched how the tourism group was out of sync at one moment with our whole COVID approach, where they were advertising to bring people into San Juan County at the very time we were sheltering in place and worrying. And I just think it makes enormous amount of sense to bring the tourism and lodging issues back into the county. Thank you very much for letting me express my views.
Thank you, Judy, for your comments this evening. Are there others this evening that would like to speak? Any others? I am not seeing another hand right now. If not, I will. Oh, Catherine? And
I'll only go if there's others haven't talked.
yeah, I was just going to say, if there's no one else who wants to speak at this point, we can allow.
Yeah,
people
I'll
to
wait.
speak a second. No, but I don't see anybody else right now. And so I was just going to clarify that we could let people speak a second time, but please do keep it brief. And we don't want to really get into a back, and I'm not saying this is your intention, Catherine, but I want to make sure that we're not getting into debate with other people's comments. That if you're inspired to speak about something because of somebody's comments, that's great. But we don't want to get into a debate back and forth with people. Let everybody have their own opinion. And again, I wasn't suggesting you were going to say that, Catherine, but please, Catherine, go ahead.
It's okay, I can take it. Okay. So I just, since my time ran out, just continuing on the same line, as far as the environmental part goes, I'm not going to argue about climate change, but as in a logical sense, as a voter, I want to know, I want proof, I want metrics that the measures you take are going to make a difference. And not only that they're going to make a difference, but they're going to make enough of a difference to justify everything that you want to overhaul and do So I think voters deserve that kind of information. And it's not, I mean, it's like here you talk about green waste, but it's not actually addressed in any of this. So you need to provide that information to people, because otherwise it's too ambiguous, and that's super scary. And I feel the same way about the justice and inclusion dealio. I mean, I think I know, I mean, what your heart or your intention is behind it and your feelings, but there's so many specific groups listed here. I feel excluded, and I'm not really sure that my perspective will be protected as much as all the other ones that you've made a point to put here. So I don't know, again, like we live in an awesome place, and I don't know of any serious, if there are serious violations going on where this is justified, then I mean that would be good to know, because the San Juan County that I've experienced for over 20 years doesn't need this specifically, and it's kind of a controversial thing. And it doesn't, again, it's ambiguous as to what the power is going to be. What are the teeth? What are they allowed to do? What's their authority? And not knowing that makes it very difficult to be pro or against it. So yeah, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. We're going to go to Kim. Is there a Kim who wanted to speak? I'm sorry, Kim.
Oh, she's muted.
Hi, I'm trying to unmute.
There you go. We can hear you. Thank you, Kim.
Kim on Orcas Island. I thought of something really critical today.
Kim, I'm sorry, just because we can't see your full name, and I haven't been pushing this because people's full name was clear, but could you introduce yourself, please, and say where you're from? You said Orcas, but just your full name, please.
Secunda, SECUNDA.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm calling because I thought of something today that's important piece of information, just logistically, and the overall long shot of everything is we don't have our census results, and the timing of this process not synchronizing with that process kind of leaves us uninformed again. So I don't know how we're going to address that. Maybe have a leap year or something to make it so that all of our information, how we inform ourselves with that census information, can be incorporated into all of this work and its application. You follow?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kim.
Okay, that's it for now.
Okay, wonderful.
Climate change is top of list on my world also.
Okay.
I haven't seen a whole flock of birds in 3 years. When I see birds now, I see 2 or 3 at a time. So, this is very real. And it hurts, and I'm scared for my kids, and my kids don't want to have kids. It's really painful. So that's what we need to do, is think about them. I don't hear them being held up much here. That would be important. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening, Kim.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any others that would like to speak at this point? Not, I wanted to go back to, Kira, please.
Hi, thanks. This is Kiara Axelrod on Orcas Island. And I hesitate to say this because I feel it's somewhat obvious, but for me, everyone I've heard say that there's no racism in the San Juan Islands has been white. And so I don't think, as a white person myself, I don't agree with that there's no racism, but I also know that it's people of color who bear the brunt and who can speak to this best. And let's all keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Are there others who would like to speak? Okay. The meeting will go through until 6 p.m. So for another 20 minutes, just in case some folks maybe are getting off work and they want to join. But I actually wanted to revert back to a couple of issues that came up and touch upon those. And if I may, I'd actually like to put a couple of other commissioners on the spot to touch on a couple subjects and briefly, but just while we've got this forum, some people pointed out that they might like a little more information on some of the subjects that we didn't do a deep dive on. And so we will take just a moment for that. The other thing I want to say is that several of you this evening and a couple people last night have asked for more information. And so I want to clarify two things. First of all, actually, we got just an excellent recommendation last night from a wonderful resident here on Orcas Island who said, what about fact sheets? And I wrote that down thinking that's exactly what needs to happen. So for those of you who have been saying, hey, I like this idea, but I need a little more information, that information is coming. And so and actually a lot of that information is there, but some of what's been happening is, we come up with ideas and then we vet them on different conversations in the market or wherever. And then we also are bouncing them off of our counsel, our prosecuting attorney and others. And so there's been a bit of a moving target. And so, for instance, I've received some emails from people saying, hey, I really liked that thing you were working on. And I had to tell them, yeah, that's not happening anymore. So what's been happening over the last couple of weeks is the finalization of all of this information. And so right now, what you've been presented are the amendments that we have already voted on to be on the ballot. So those amendments have already been voted on by the full commission to be on the ballot. And a lot of the detail is there, but not all of it. And so we could tell you generally, for instance, for the climate commissioner or for the Office of Climate and Environment, what the duties of that person are that we're discussing right now. That will be finalized in the coming days. And so there will be more detail coming forward on a lot of this. I also wanted to go back and touch upon maybe if I can put Jane on the spot, Commissioner Fuller, the idea of a non-discrimination amendment was brought up a couple times. And so Jane, if you could go just briefly into a little bit deeper dive on that so that people understand that a little more. And just a couple minutes, but I think that one, because some people asked me in chat about it. And so I think it would be great if you could just spend a minute or two on it.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think probably the first and most important thing for all the listeners today to be aware of is that in the course of the Justice and Equity Subcommittee, looking at the charters of the 6 other counties that are charter counties in Washington State, what we learned very quickly was that every single one of those other county charters have a non-discrimination clause in them, with the exception of Whatcom County. The reason Whatcom County has an interesting relationship to San Juan County is that our county charter was mirrored off of Whatcom County. And so all of the other charter counties, with the exception of those 2, are clearly upholding the importance of non-discrimination in the way in which they manage their counties. And in truth, is it necessary to have a non-discrimination clause, given that our county has to abide by state and federal legislation regarding non-discrimination? Actually, you don't have to have one. However, in the course of having a presentation made to us by another county that is a charter county, which is Snohomish County, we had the opportunity to ask the executive manager of that county why he felt it was valuable to have a non-discrimination clause that was specific to their charter. And basically what he said was that it is a means of reinforcing the value of non-discrimination within the functioning of the county government. And so that is in large part the basis for proposing that amendment to our charter. Additionally, there are reasons, and I stated this when I was presenting information on the rationale for the Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. There are reasons we came up with this, and I stated that earlier, and that is that the county council that the voters of this county elected passed a resolution last year that has very clear values that relate to diversity, that relate to respect, that relate to inclusion, that relate to all manner of things that concern what we are proposing in establishing this commission. So the voters of the county voted for the county council. The county council felt, in the wake of all of the things that were going on last year, including actually in our county, and I can share with you that discrimination actually happens quite openly in some islands of this county, even including today. Those county councilors felt action needed to be taken. What we are doing is going bolder and deeper with this action by saying we want our county to do this in everything that it does, to uphold the rights of everybody, to be respectful of everybody, and to give people space and voice and feel respected and included. And for those who don't think there's any issue, it may be because you feel that you are respected and included, because you hopefully are. But not everybody feels that way. And so our committee was really trying to reach out to people whose voices don't often get heard. And that has a lot to do with them feeling unsafe and intimidated and not included. So I just think it's really important that you understand we're trying to present a package of issues here in a certain sense to be an even better county than I think many of us feel we are. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jane. Are there others that would like to speak at this point?
Oh, Andy Finley.
Andy, please.
Hi, thank you very much. And thanks everybody for all this amazing work. I just want to add my voice and voices of Transition Lopez Island to this wonderful Office of Climate and Environment. And I do think it's a great idea to be as specific as you can be about what this person's job would entail. But generally, I mean, the priorities don't always get lined up the right way. And I just think that having an actual office that has its main goal and focus is on the environment and on protecting us and on dealing with issues that are coming up as we speak about climate is really critical. And the other thing I'm hoping you're going to cover is a little bit more on ranked choice voting, because I think it's a terrific idea, and I heartily support it, and I would like more people to know more about it. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your comments this evening, Andy. Are there others that would like to speak from the public? Okay, if not, somebody remind me, who was the chair of the subcommittee that dealt with ranked choice voting?
Tony.
Tony?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Tony, can I put you on the spot just to talk about the process that we went through on that and maybe the back and forth a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah. Let me just start by saying that just for everybody to know, we have had a very robust discussion on a lot of these proposed amendments, and as we said earlier, these amendments went through a subcommittee discussion, and some went forward to the larger group of the charter review, and the charter review voted. And many of these amendments had opposition as well. So just to give you, it's not really all unanimous decisions were made. Some of them were actually not fully supported, but here we are as a Charter Review Commission, we're moving forward with some of these things. As far as ranked choice voting was brought to the subcommittee to discuss. I have to tell you, I didn't know much about it when it was first presented to our subcommittee by one of our members. We quickly got to know a lot about it. We interviewed one of the members of the committee that brought it forward because she had a lot of information on it. Another member of the committee also presented some discussions that were published online regarding the other point of the ranked choice voting. So really there were two opposing views in our subcommittee. When the subcommittee decided to vote on it, there was a motion and the motion did not go forward, meaning that there was no second. And in Robert's rule, if there's no second, the motion dies. So as a result, we did not recommend that to move forward to the Charter Review Commission as a whole. However, in one of the town halls, there was a lot of discussion about ranked choice voting. So the Charter Review Commission as a whole decided that that's a subject that's worth discussing. And we went ahead and further discussed it. We interviewed a group from, remind me, Sharon, was it something Vote Washington?
Yeah,
Fair
it's
Vote
called, it's
Washington.
called Fair Vote Washington.
Fair Vote Washington. And then we also interviewed a member of the Pierce County Charter Review Commission that spoke against that idea. So as a result, we, as a Charter Review Commission, voted to bring it forward in response to essentially what the community wanted, the community that was present at the that first town hall meeting. So that's where we are with that. Now, there are two sides of any situation that we present. There are two sides. Some side will say that this is the best thing that could ever happen to democracy. Another side says, why is that really important in San Juan County, since we really don't have those kind of issues, especially since it's going to affect a handful of elected officials. So really, for me, the jury is still out there, and really it's up to the citizens of San Juan County to decide when that moves forward to be an item on the election ballot in November. So,
Tony, could I ask you just to clarify what the final motion was? Because there were some questions last night and this evening in chat about kind of what we actually put forward. And what we put forward, if I'm remembering correctly, was we're going to move forward on ranked choice voting when the state legislature acts upon it. Is that correct?
yeah, that was also part of our discussion, that the state constitution right now and the state legislature has not come down on how ranked choice voting will actually function in the state of Washington. As a matter of fact, there's a bill that's been tabled in the legislature. What we motioned as a charter review was that we will agree with charter review with ranked choice voting if and when the state of Washington's legislature actually comes down with the proper way of doing it. As you know, we can't really expand it to state or federal offices. It can only function as a San Juan County elected officials function, meaning that it only affects the 5 elected officials: the auditor, the assessor, the treasurer, the clerk, and so on. So anyway, that's where we are, and the motion basically moved forward as that.
Tony, thank you very much for that. And I hope for others that clarified a bit more on ranked choice voting. Sharon, I'll get to you in a minute. We have another member of the public who would like to speak, and that's Alexandra.
Hi, Alexandra Gayak, Orcas Island. I have been kind of unsure about saying this, and I'm not sure how it's going to come out, but I want to talk about power, and my concern is I want to be able to breathe clean air, and I want to be able to drink clean water, and I want to be able to plant things in the soil that isn't contaminated by what my neighbor up the hill did. I want to have land that's not flooded by the fact that my neighbor up the hill cut down all their trees or built a big development. In my case, it was both. I want to be able to live in a place where I feel safe, that people are not going to rise up and get their guns out and start shooting each other. I want to live in a place that's peaceful. And I feel like I have a right to that. I feel like I have a right to life, and that other people have a right to life, and that people's desire to accumulate personal wealth does not supersede my right to life or other people's right to life. And my life right now feels like it is at risk because of what's happening with our climate and what's happening with all of the life that is responsible for creating a stable climate. And I can't personally, I don't have the power to stand up in front of a bulldozer or somebody with a chainsaw and say, don't cut down that tree. That's not okay with me. And the way our laws are organized, it's as if the people who want to destroy are acting like bullies who are using the law to be able to do whatever the hell they want to do. And I'm not accusing any particular person. I'm just saying what it feels like. what it feels like to me is because we have such scarce enforcement available in the county due to the county budget and the structure and everything else, that people are reliant upon the goodwill of their neighbors. And if a neighbor doesn't have goodwill, there ain't nothing we can do about it. And I, you know, I don't want to live in a police state, but I also don't want to live in a state where anybody can do anything they want to do just because it's their land, as if what they do doesn't affect anybody else. And so I am in favor of having an Office of Climate and
30
Environment,
seconds,
and in favor
Alexandra.
of having justice and equity protections, because even if some people can't see examples or don't see the need for it, I see the need for it personally. And I'm not speaking for any organization or any government body, or, you know, I'm a private citizen over here who just looks at what goes on around me in my neighborhood, in my community. And so that's the reason that I've become involved. And thanks for all your work on the commission, all of you who have worked so hard to get this far.
Thank you, Alexandra. We've just got a few minutes left. Are there others that would like to speak this evening? Any others from the public that would like to comment? Okay, Sharon, Janet, please.
I would just like to say that if I was mistaken in saying the county council is not paying attention to the citizen advisory committees, I'm very, very pleased that they are. So that's welcome news. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Okay, Sharon, did you want to say something just before we close? And then I have one other closing comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think Tony did a good job of clarifying. I just wanted to add, in case it wasn't clear to everybody, that we are putting RC ranked choice voting into the charter, but it will not be implemented. It's basically dormant until it passes on the state level.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. I'm not seeing any other hands. Am I correct on that? Okay. We just got a couple minutes left here. I just wanted to say, oh, Sharon, go ahead.
Sorry, I shouldn't say we are putting it in. I'm saying we're proposing to put it in.
Yes, yes, yes. Everything we're doing is going for a vote of the residents of San Juan County. So we do not get to make the executive decision by any means. I just wanted to clarify something that's, I think, really important, which is the reason the charter is so important is that this is long lasting. We're playing the long game here. This is not based on a current county council, a past county council. It's not based on a current citizens commission or a past residents commission. It's based on, again, it's similar to our Constitution. And so just like the state or federal Constitution, you don't amend the Constitution frequently. And so what we're doing tonight in this discussion and what we're going to be doing over the next several months, and I can't remember who it was that said this is an excellent way to begin these conversations. Maybe I think it was Judy Scott. But what we're doing is beginning a dialogue for how we want this county to look in many years to come. And so we can't make this decision or the decisions that we're putting on the ballot for this November based upon who's in office now or who's not in office now or where we are today. This is a 10-year scope at a minimum, and then charters don't change too easily. They have to go to a full vote of the people again. And so one of the issues that's come up is that, our council, our other electeds have some great ideas. They may not be there in 4 years. They may not be there in 8 years. If one of the charter amendments goes through, they definitely won't be there after 12 years. The point is that if we want these things that we deeply care about to be there in the future, then putting them in the charter to structure our government for them is the best way to do it. And I'm not putting a value statement when I say that on any of our individual amendments. That value statement is for you as individual residents of this community to put your stamp on when you vote. But what I'm saying is that what we are doing is talking about a multi-year and hopefully a multi-generational conversation for San Juan County. And it's really important to recognize that this isn't, you know, a county ordinance could be passed by a county council, can be reversed by the very next county council. We've seen this at the presidential level over the last 8 years, things that we thought were absolutely core values of this country, or differences of opinion, I'll put it to be more politically correct, switched overnight. That can happen at the county level. When we put it in the charter, that's not the case. So that's what we're talking about here tonight. And it is fantastic that we had over 70 people here this evening. And again, last night as well, there's still over 60 of you here this evening. Thank you so much for your input. Several of us wrote notes on every single comment. I tried to keep up on the chat and with what people were saying too. So I hope I got all those, but we will keep track of those as well. And again, if any of you have questions that you would like responses to, please email us at SJC charter, what is it? It's SJC Charter Review at sanjuanco.com. And that goes to every single commissioner, and we will get back to you. So thank you all again for being here this evening. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And just thanks for living here and participating. Good night.